The Paraphrase of Shem. Translated by Willis Barnstone. This original translation of the Paraphrase of Shem Naglamati Codex 7.1 is presented in the Gnostic Society Library by permission, and under license from Dr. Willis Barnstone, who retains all copyright. Dr. Barnstone's translations of the Naglamati texts are published in the Gnostic Bible, 2003, Willis Barnstone and Marvin Meyer. Headings in bold type have been added to the text for clarity by the translators. About the unconceived. The paraphrase about the unconceived spirit. What are the keys revealed to me, Shem, according to the will of the Majesty? Shem has a vision. My thought, which was in my body, snatched me away from my race. It took me up to the top of the world, which is close to the light, that shone upon the whole area there. I saw no earthly likeness, but there was light. And my thought separated from the body of darkness as though in sleep. Dirdikias tells Shem about the powers of the universe. I heard a voice saying to me, Shem, since you are from an unmixed power, and you are the first being upon the earth, hear and understand what I shall say to you first concerning the great powers, who were in existence in the beginning, before I appeared. There was light and darkness, and there was spirit between them. Since your root fell into forgetfulness, that which was the unconceived spirit, I reveal to you the truth about the powers. The light was thought, full of attentiveness and reason. They were united into one form. And the darkness was wind and waters. He possessed the mind wrapped in chaotic fire. And the spirit between them was a gentle, humble light. These are the three roots. They reigned each in themselves, alone. And they covered each other, each one with its power. But the light, since he possessed great power, knew the abasement of the darkness, and his disorder, namely, that the root was not straight. The crookedness of the darkness was lack of perception, namely, the illusion that there is no one above him. And as long as he was able to restrain his evil, he was covered with the water. And he stirred. And the spirit was frightened by the sound. He lifted himself up to his station, and he saw a great, dark water. And he was nauseated. The thought of the spirit stared down. He saw the infinite light. But he was overlooked by the putrid root. And by the will of the great light the dark waters separated. The darkness came up wrapped in vile ignorance, and this was in order, that the mind might separate from him, because he prided himself in it. Darkness seized the spirit. When the darkness stirred, the light of the spirit appeared to him. When he saw it, he was astonished. He did not know that another power was above him. And when he saw that his likeness was dark compared with the spirit, he felt hurt. And in his pain he lifted up, above the height of the members of darkness, his mind, which was the eye of the bitterness of evil. He caused his mind to take shape in a member of the portions of the spirit, thinking that, by staring down at his evil, he would be able to equal the spirit. But he was not able, for he wanted to do an impossible thing, and it did not take place. But in order that the mind of darkness, which is the eye of the bitterness of evil, might not be destroyed, since he was made partially similar, he arose, and shone with a fiery light upon all of Hades, that the equality of the faultless light might become apparent. For the Spirit benefited from every form of darkness, because he appeared in his majesty. And the exalted, infinite light appeared, for he was very joyful. He wished to reveal himself to the Spirit. And the likeness of the exalted light appeared to the unconceived spirit. I appeared. I am the Son of the incorruptible, infinite light. I appeared in the likeness of the Spirit, for I am the ray of the universal light. And his appearance to me was in order, that the mind of darkness might not remain in Hades. For the darkness made himself like his mind in a portion of the members. When I, O Shem, appeared in the likeness, so that the darkness might become dark to himself, according to the will of the Majesty, and so that the darkness might become devoid of every aspect of the power that he possessed, the mind drew the chaotic fire, with which it was covered, from the midst of the darkness, and the water. And from the darkness the water became a cloud, and from the cloud the womb took shape. The chaotic fire, which was a deviation, went there. Darkness ejaculates mind into the womb of nature. And when the darkness saw the womb, he became unchaste. And when he had aroused the water, he rubbed the womb. His mind dissolved down to the depths of nature. It mingled with the power of the bitterness of darkness. And the womb's eye ruptured at the wickedness in order that she might not again bring forth the mind, for it was a seed of nature from the dark root. And when nature had taken to herself the mind by means of the dark power, every likeness took shape in her. And when the darkness had acquired the likeness of the mind, it resembled the spirit. For nature rose up to expel it. She was powerless against it, since she did not have a form from the darkness. For she brought it forth in the cloud, and the cloud shone. A mind appeared in it like a frightful, harmful fire. The mind collided against the unconceived spirit, since it possessed a likeness from him, in order that nature might become empty of the chaotic fire. And immediately nature was divided into 4 parts. They became clouds that varied in their appearance. They were called hymen, afterbirth, power, and water. And the hymen and the afterbirth and the power were chaotic fires. And the mind was drawn from the midst of the darkness, and the water, since the mind was in the midst of nature, and the dark power, in order that the harmful waters might not cling to it. Because of this, nature was divided, according to my will, in order that the mind may return to its power, which the dark root, mixed with the mind, had taken from it. And the dark root appeared in the womb. At the division of nature, the dark root separated from the dark power, which it possessed from the mind. The mind went into the midst of the power. This was the middle region of nature. The light of the Spirit is in the confines of nature. The Spirit of light, when the mind burdened him, was astonished. And the force of his astonishment cast off the burden, and it returned to its heat. It put on the light of the Spirit. And when nature moved away from the power of the light of the Spirit, the burden returned. And the astonishment of the light again cast off the burden. It stuck to the cloud of the hymen, and all the clouds of darkness cried out, they who had separated from Hades, because of the alien power. This is the Spirit of light who has come in them. And by the will of the Majesty the Spirit gazed up at the infinite light, that his light may be pitied, and the likeness may be brought up from Hades. And when the Spirit had looked, I flowed out, I, the Son of the Majesty, like a wave of light, and like a whirlwind of the immortal Spirit. And I blew from the cloud of the hymen upon the astonishment of the unconceived spirit. The cloud separated and cast light upon the clouds. These separated so that the spirit might return. Because of this the mind took shape. Its rest was shattered. For the hymen of nature was a cloud that cannot be grasped, it is a great fire. Similarly, the afterbirth of nature is the cloud of silence, it is an august fire. And the power that was mixed with the mind, it, too, was a cloud of nature, that was joined with the darkness, that had aroused nature to unchastity. And the dark water was a frightful cloud. And the root of nature, which was below, was crooked, since it is burdensome and harmful. The root was blind to the bound light, which was unfathomable, because it had many appearances. Tertikias appeals on behalf of the Spirit. I had pity on the light of the Spirit that the mind had received. I returned to my position to pray to the exalted, infinite light, that the power of the Spirit might increase there, and might be filled without dark defilement. And reverently I said, You are the root of the light. Your hidden form has appeared, O exalted, infinite one. May the whole power of the Spirit spread,